The year was 1914, when the Great War began in Europe. It finally ended in 1918. This is the year that marks the 100th anniversary to the conclusion of World War I. Longmont Museum is hosting World War I Longmont and the Great War. With your invitation, I have Joan Harold this morning. Good to see you, Joan.
Thanks for having me.
Now, why is this so unique to our state, this exhibit?
So we've just opened this new exhibit, World War I Longmont and the Great War. And as you mentioned, it's the centennial anniversary, and it's actually the centennial anniversary of the United States entering the conflict of World War I. And we've opened this, and the thing that makes it so special, I think, it's not just a generic story about World War I. It's actually the personal stories of people who lived in Longmont 100 years ago.
Wow.
And their involvement in the war. So there were more than 400 people from Longmont who were involved in the war either as soldiers or doctors, pilots, nurses.
Oh my goodness, that is so special and unique.
It is, and if you think about it, the size of Longmont at that time, it was only a town of about 5,000. So the percentage of people who were directly involved was really quite high. And not only that, you know, with 400 people out of 5,000, nearly every person would have cared deeply about someone who was involved.
Absolutely. They're related to him somehow or knew him
Right.
in one way or another. So we get to find out about locals, but what can we see when we arrive?
So when you arrive at the exhibit, you're given a character card, and we have about 20 character cards out of the 400 people who were involved, and these were actual real people who were involved in the war. So you get your character card and you walk through the exhibit, and you can find your character throughout, see what their role was in the war, and at the end of the exhibit you see kind of what their fate was.
This kind of sounds family friendly, like I can bring my boys to it.
Yeah, children actually can be really interested in it.
Educated. Now, what are some of your favorite items that are featured?
So I would say that, you know, when you walk into the exhibit, the first thing that you really are going to see is an airplane. We have an airplane in the gallery. So it's a 2/3 scale Jenny biplane, and it was actually made by a person from Longmont. So it's a replica, but we have it there in the gallery, and this is an airplane that was typically used to train pilots when they were going off to fight in the war.
If you want to find out more, because we are just scratching the surface here talking to Joan, if you want to find out more about the World War I Longmont and the Great War exhibit, please go to their website, longmontmuseum.org. It'll have all the information. Now, different history lectures are available through May 13th. What can we find out about that?
Yeah, so we have a couple of history lectures coming up, and really those are going to take a deep dive into some of these subjects that we're exploring in the exhibit. And another thing I really wanted to mention is that our exhibit features a lot of items from our historic collection. So we have more than 17,000 objects in our historic collection for the museum, and we were really able to access a lot of those to build this exhibit. So we'll be diving into that with the lectures, and the exhibit you'll see things like letters that people actually wrote home, diaries, original propaganda art, so some really compelling pieces, and all of that we'll delve into with the historic lectures as well.
That has to be so emotional, reading those letters corresponding with their loved ones and what they were going
Absolutely.
through. On March 18th, you have something pretty cool. You have a screening with a live orchestra?
Yeah, so it's the silent film Wings, and we're going to be screening that with a live orchestra, so that's going to be a really special event.
Do you buy tickets for that, or just admittance, that's not the word, or just the ticket to get into the Longmont Museum?
It is a ticketed event,
Okay.
so you can get those tickets on our website or by calling the museum.
Okay, very nice. And what else do you have planned for this year?
So we have a lot of other programming that is related to the exhibit. So we have a World War I film series that's coming up, and we also have these adult art and sip classes that are on Thursday nights, and some of those are wartime crafts, and others are just things like painting or jewelry making, things that are great for adults while enjoying a glass of wine.
Oh, relaxing. You can go out with the girlfriends
That's
and
right.
enjoy yourself. So what permanent exhibits are at the Longmont Museum?
So we have a permanent exhibit called Front Range Rising, and basically it is the history of the St. Vrain Valley and the Longmont area over the past 14,000 years. So that's a permanent exhibit that we have there. We get a lot of school groups coming through. It's part of the curriculum for elementary school students, but it's also just a great way, especially if you have visitors in town,
Right.
to learn a little more about our community.
Boy, it has to be rather large to house all of those exhibits.
Yeah.
How big is the museum?
So
big.
yeah, the museum is pretty big. We have that whole permanent exhibition area. Then we have our temporary galleries, and we have we're a 3-story building, and we also have a 250-seat auditorium and a 2-story atrium. So it's a pretty nice facility. I definitely encourage you to come visit.
And where are you located at in Longmont?
So we're in Longmont, right off of 287 as you're coming in from Denver.
Excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you, Joan. Sounds wonderful. You have to go check it out. World War I, Longmont and the Great War shares the personal stories of World War I I through the experiences of people who actually lived in Longmont. The exhibition is open now through May 13th, and all of the details are online. Just go to longmontmuseum.org.